Welcome to Hawkeye, the aviation safety podcast where we dive into the world of aviation safety, exploring strategies for a safer and more efficient aviation industry. This podcast is dedicated to examining the latest trends, news, and best practices in the world of aviation safety. And now your host, safety professional and founder of hawkaerosafety, Matthew West.
Hi there, and thanks for joining me. Now, you're going to think I'm crazy. Starting this podcast series, I thought I'd go slightly different. In aviation safety, or just generally safety professionals, we tend to think a little differently. Thinking outside of the box and being innovative is something that we have to do to keep things fresh. So as part of that, I wanted to try something completely different. And I wonder if safety in other industries is similar to what we do in aviation safety. Stick with me on this. This podcast is with a safety professional from the food industry, and the intent is to see the challenges they face and how things are similar to what we do in aviation safety. I hope you enjoy it. So on this week's podcast, I'm really excited to introduce you to Juliette Floyd, the Environmental Health and Safety Manager from Ken's Foods. Hi, Juliette.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Good. It's nice weather today here. It's like 60. It's been bipolar. So it was like 100 degrees on Saturday, and then it dropped to 57, and then it rained, and it's just gone back and forth. It's just been kind of all over the place.
Does that affect operations in the facility there, or does it have no impact?
It has no impact.
Well, that's good. I suppose you're all inside and protected in a nice facility. Well, for those of you listening in, I got to meet Juliette a few weeks back. We have some colleagues in common, people I used to work with in the aviation industry who now work in the food production manufacture world. And I managed to have a wonderful tour of the Ken's Food facility there and got to meet Juliette. And we thought this might be interesting in how the world of safety crosses over between, we all talk the same language in safety. It doesn't matter. It's independent of the actual work that we do, safe between aviation, food production, whatever. But we're all pulling in the same direction, face the same challenges, but also are approaching the same safety components in different ways. So, Juliette, how long have you been at Ken's Foods now?
I have been at Ken's Foods for about a year and a half. So January 10th, 2022 was my first official day.
Oh, excellent. And could you explain what Ken's Foods does on a day-to-day basis and what the main role of the company is?
Yep. So we start to finish salad dressings, barbecue sauces, marinades. We make sauce cups for chain restaurants, mom and pop restaurants, just kind of a variety of everything. We mix everything here. We do all the cooking, packaging, everything here on site, as well as shipping everything out. So we do a little bit of everything. And again, I am new to the food industry, so I'm still learning everything. I come from manufacturing, so it's definitely been new.
Manufacturing, okay. So what was your role, if you can tell us, prior to joining Ken's Foods?
So I actually started out at Wabtec. They build locomotives. They do rebuilds and brand new locomotives. In 2005, I actually started out there as an electrician and eventually got into the safety role. But so I was out there for, I think, 17 years. Wanted to try something different and new and kind of ended up here.
And so I always ask people this, and forgive me for asking this question. Was safety a role that you wanted to move into, or was it initially one of those things that you kind of were given the task of going into it and then moved into the role?
So it was a little bit of both. I've actually had some unfortunate events in my family, tragedies due to, unsafe acts. And it's something I've always kind of focused on with being safe. I actually joined the safety committee where I was at, and that's kind of where I kind of found that, I'm very passionate about making sure people understand, why we want to do the things we do. And I think I succeed pretty well because I'm not just coming out here with, I'm the safety manager. I'm actually coming out here with all the experience. So I've been on the floor and I've been that person that has had hard time finding the right PPE, what fits, what's comfortable. I've actually been there from start to finish on finding something that's been better. So I definitely it's been an advantage when you come starting from the floor, because you have that experience and you get that respect from your team members. So.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's great to hear. So you moved into Ken's Foods, and so you're going from the world of locomotives to, I'm trying to even think about how to describe the factory. Sorry, I call it factory. Please forgive me. Manufacturing facility, whatever you guys, the correct terminology is. You can correct me, but when I came down and got the guided tour there, it absolutely blew my mind with how much was going on. In my world, you walk out onto an aircraft ramp, you've got spinning rotor blades and jet engines and movements of fuel trucks and things like that. But that seemed to pale in comparison to what was going on in the manufacturing facility. How many employees do you have on the floor there?
So we have about 340 full-time employees, as well as some employees that are temporary employees. But it's about 340 altogether at this facility. So there's 4 facilities total in the U.S. This one, I think we have about 1,600 people total plant-wide, but here we have about 340.
And, the PPE requirements were, obviously it's huge because you're in food manufacture. We're trying to make sure everything's safe and nothing's getting into the whatever you're making and bottling and everything. So you mentioned PPE, so that takes me kind of into the OSHA side of things. How does OSHA differ, those kind of requirements between the locomotive world and the food world? It's all the same principles, it's just you've got the different regulations that apply? Are they stricter? Are they coming down and actually on site more, anything like that?
So here, from what I've experienced, I'm not going to say it's more relaxed. I think the hazards are a lot less severe from what we've experienced in the past. So at my last facility, we did interact with OSHA a lot more with, either employee complaints or post-accidents. Here we did have an unfortunate event where an employee did lose a few fingers and OSHA did have to come out on site. The whole experience was went really well, really smooth, just, unfortunately with why they were out here. But here I would say it's a lot more laid back. The hazards are a lot less severe. And this company is pretty high standards on making sure employees are working safely and supporting the funds that are needed to get there. That's one of the most unique situations out here, is we actually have the funds that they're willing to, if we need something right away with safety, they're willing to get it quickly. So
you've got that top level, you've got no worries about that top level commitment. The accountable executive is giving you the human and financial resources you need to get things done.
Yes, I've never seen that before, and it's just amazing. So everyone's aware that we want to do the right thing out here, and they're really working well with it. So
that's great to hear. And I mean, that's kind of what we do in our roles too, right? Is trying to develop that safety culture and top down push from, I think sometimes it's missed. We go through and build these safety management systems. We have a safety policy that says, no harm to employees and to our customers, and the highest level of safety. But when you've actually can see that commitment from the financial and human resources that are available to you to make that happen, that's huge. And I always found it fantastic when the CEO or the senior leadership team could come down and actually give people a pat on the back for a safety win, and just to re-emphasize that they care. One thing, I'm guessing you've got some kind of a hazard reporting system for your employees, and the ways they how do you normally get your hazard and safety reports in? You've got like an automated system, or is it emails, or?
So we have a software, it's called Ignition. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's something that we've kind of built within house. So anytime there's an incident, property damage, near miss, close call, spill, employees use that system to report it. I have it set up where it goes to our leadership team anytime there's something filled out, so we can quickly respond on, who needs to be a part of it. So we get that notification right away. So it's not just going on a form, going on someone's desk. It actually goes out right away. Employees know that needs to be done, as soon as possible, and it gets sent out. So via email.
Excellent. And so have you ever had one from leadership, actually, where they complete one?
I have not yet. One of our other sites did have one that was leadership that slipped and fell. So it was kind of interesting. I had to look at the name again. I'm like, who is that? So it's not at this site.
It's things like that I always found were great. You know, when we had my former chief pilot or a director of operations, and actually shows that they're using the system too. How many reports do you think you get in an average month?
Including everything. And this site, since I came on board, we've done a huge turnover where I am confident we're actually reporting everything. So it's kind of been a big curve. So it's been a learning curve, but it's been good. But we're probably getting anywhere from maybe 15 to 25 per month with spills, near misses, and things like that. If it's incidents, it's maybe 1 to 2 or 1 to 4, just depends. With first dates.
Yeah. And I mean, we see you now on your Teams call, and you're in your office there, and you're actually on the floor of the plant, right?
Yep.
So do you find that means that people are coming to see you more? I mean, obviously you can get out and interact with people a lot more, which is it's huge for our safety promotion on what we do there. But do you find people, since you're visible and easily accessible, people come to see you more?
Absolutely. So I actually have my little fridge in here, and I have water in here and a little table, and I actually have people come in here all the time, and we talk about either safety issues or ideas. I actually had a few projects on my table that I needed to finish and put together, and I actually came in here the other day and somebody had done it for me already. And it was actually one of our team members. I I saw you needed help, so I thought I'd come in here in my break and help you. And I was like, that's awesome. So I probably have 10 to 15 people coming in here every day, either to say hi or getting an update or giving me an idea or following up. So we have that relationship is critical to have. And it's something I think I have with most employees out here. So it's fun.
So how much time each day do you think you spend behind your desk as compared to being out on the floor?
I make it a priority that I spend at a minimum of 50% of my time on the floor. I usually stop before I even come to my desk in the mornings. I do a walk through the facility. I make sure I walk the outside of the facility at least twice a day. And then I do the same thing after lunch and before I leave. I just try to walk the whole facility to see if, show the floor support. Instead, when I get an email on something, instead of calling, I'll actually go out to the floor and kind of ask the questions. So I make it a priority at least minimum 50% of the time.
That's great. Just having that visibility, I think for me, I remember my time when I was director of safety over at Cairn Airport for Sundance Helicopters, and we had a remote maintenance facility. We had the terminal building. We had the ramp with all the aircraft. And the most information I ever got was putting on my high-vis jacket and walking out onto the ramp and just talking to people, or going down to the maintenance facility with a bag of donuts. Honestly, a bag of donuts has opened more doors to me and found me more information than anything else in my time in safety.
I use candy as my bribe. My husband keeps asking me, why do you keep bringing candy to work? I'm like, it's a bribe. It works.
So, but it's having that focal point for safety actually being visible, and I think one thing that's always tough as well is showing the wins as well as the negatives, the findings, all the time. Leadership is usually so hot on showing all the bad things and then pointing out all the bad things so we can correct them, but showing the good things that are working and communicating those to our teammates as well is huge. And by being out there and being amongst the crew really helps with that. So we keep talking about this amazing plant. Can you give the listeners a bit of an idea on the scale of this plant and what you've got going on? I mean, again, I'm going back to my few weeks ago, and just seeing a rail car inside a building kind of was wild to me. And that was only one tiny portion of the facility. So maybe you can describe it for us.
So yeah, I'm pulling something up that's going to help me with a little bit of information.
I'm not going to quiz you on this exact square footage.
No, you're good. You're good. So yes, we have a pretty big facility. I think it's 330,000 square feet. It's a big facility. Every year, we always have plans to do additions. We just built a new warehouse 2 years ago, as well as a second level. So it's growing. Like I said, we only have 4 facilities. This is the only one on the west side. We have 3 other facilities that are on the other side of the U.S., but we all stay locally in the U.S. Like you guys are, I'm sure everyone's familiar with Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. That's our baby too. We do Chick-fil-A. We do some stuff for Burger King, Applebee's. We do lots of chain restaurants, as small ones, little ones. So like the little cups you get, like with sweet and sour sauce, we do things like that. Trying to find out how much we ship out per month, because that's pretty or every day. It's pretty interesting. It doesn't say. So today we're shipping out 32 trucks full of product. That's kind of how, depending on how much it is every day, we ship out over 1 million pounds every day of product. So it's a pretty busy facility. We start to finish here. We get totes of tomato paste. It's pretty amazing, all the ingredients we see.
I remember the smell in there was fantastic. I mean, and you'd walk around different sections of the facility and it was just like, oh, wow, just a hit of oregano, or it'll be, the barbecue sauce over here. But like you said, there's everything. It goes from start to finish in that facility. So you've got rail cars with, I forget, what were you bringing in on those rail cars?
Yeah, we have oil, cayenne, buttermilk. I think egg might be in the truck. So we have semi trucks that come in too. It's just a little bit of everything.
And then you've got huge silos for storage.
Yep.
And then you've got things in drums, and you've got the logistics side where all those things are coming in, and you've got forklifts running around, and then you've got the facility that's actually, you've got the side of it that's mixing everything and preparing it. Then you've got the packaging. And like you said, there's so many different types of packaging, from the little cups through to jars and bottles and whatever.
Yep. And we keep everything inside just due to we are on a stormwater permit and a couple other permits out here. So this is one of the facilities also that I'm pretty impressed with on how well we keep everything clean. Luckily it doesn't rain too much here, which I always get worried about that, but it's trying to keep bugs and insects and animals and rodents out. I'm just amazed on how well that happens. When I first started here, I'm like, how do we keep ants and stuff like that out? But just seeing the process they do on having our lab come out and keep traps and look at those things, it's amazing. So we don't really deal with OSHA too much out here. I think it's the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, that we are trying to satisfy all the time. We've got multiple audits that come out all the time because they have to report those. We have x-ray machines. So, the human safety of this is I'm just amazed at it and how well prepared it is. So it's nice that I can actually work at a place and feel comfortable giving this to my family, not having to worry about anything.
Yeah, I'm sure the FDA are just as wonderful as the FAA are in our world.
Yes.
But they've got their job.
Yeah,
they've got their jobs to do, but no, in terms of like the cleanliness of the facility, I mean, it was immaculate, and everything was neatly and on the shelving, and everything was easily accessible, and yeah, it's wild. I mean, just the logistics side and keeping everything. I mean, I dread to think how much some of those pallets weigh with those contents, up high up on three stacked up, but everything's super safe and managed, and forklift operators well trained and courteous, even, I would say.
Yeah, our forklift operators, they do such a great job. They use their horns. We also have the blue light. We have our mirrors. They use their horn all the time. They do a great job.
And I'm sure they saw me in my oddly colored jacket that you gave me as a visitor. So, I think he did that just so he wouldn't hit me. Don't hit the visitor. I'm joking. But no, I mean, it's amazing. And really, I guess where I'm going with this is you've got so many different sections of the facility and people doing these specialized roles in each part of the facility. Where does the training cross over in your world in terms of safety? Does everyone has like a standard level of safety training and then maybe some specialists in their particular areas, or how do you kind of handle that?
So we use Alchemy. It's a software training program. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's kind of nice. It has remote, so everybody actually has to participate in the training. We do monthly training with whatever the monthly required topic is. We do new hire onboarding. It's a 2 to 4 week process where they're doing job shadowing. They're going through all their training before they even start on the floor. Certain groups, depending on what they are, if it's maintenance or kitchen, they have their own specialized training that they do as well. They can either log in individually to their training or we do it as a group. But it's a nice way that we can track it and we're not having to go old school with training rosters and, tracking everybody that way. It's all done kind of automatically.
That's great. And it kind of tells you when they're coming up for their recurrent training. And
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, there's so many facets to that side of the business. I don't even know how you would do that with paper records.
Yeah, and we used to do it at it was a full-time job, so it's definitely nice that we have the technology now.
So I keep using the term safety management system, and I have no idea if that's the kind of the term that you use in your world. Your safety program. Do you still call it SMS?
They don't really have a technical name for it right now. I would just probably say safety policies or kind of what we have in place. We're still kind of building with our new software program that we're using to kind of create all that.
Okay. And when you're doing your safety training, what kind of training does leadership get, and what kind of visibility to safety does your leadership team get? So I'm guessing that you've got to sit in meetings and report do you report on a weekly, monthly? Is it a quarterly sit down? How's that kind of work in your world?
So So we do a quarterly sit down. I believe you remember Chris Fuller, the team member that we had dinner with. He actually comes out quarterly, and we do group training together on, what do we need to improve as a team, as a group. What do we need to communicate better? Any certain type of training that we need to support each other with. And we do that quarterly, as well as off-site leadership development training as well. So that's currently what we have in place. It might change up a little bit. We're not sure where that's headed yet, but currently that's what we have.
Always in development, right?
Yes, always.
It's constant improvement. That's what we're always doing. So I'm sure in your world, if you hit the same challenges and the same issues that we experience in the aviation world. So I'm going to throw out a few words here, and I know people can't see your expressions on your face, but I'm going to throw out a few words here. Complacency, lack of vigilance, hazardous attitudes. These are things that often we tackle in the aviation world. A lack of vigilance, especially with routine operations where people are doing things over and over and over again. I'm sure you experience that in your facility where someone's doing a repetitive job that they probably know very, very well, and sometimes things don't always go the way they normally do, right? So, yeah. What kind of challenges do you see on a recurring basis, or if you can talk about that?
Yeah, of course. So we're at a pretty low hazard for our decibel level for hearing. I'm sure you guys are on a different level, but just the wearing hearing protection properly has been one that we've just been doing coaching on, making sure they're being worn properly and being worn. Sometimes safety glasses, they'll have them on top of their eyebrows, whether they fog up. Just having to remind them the change. That's something kind of big that I've been working on. There's some things that I've changed out here with different styles of PPE that has been, I don't know if it's a Las Vegas thing, but it's just been a little bit harder for the team to accept change and see if we want to try something new and see if it works better. So that's been a challenge. Just like any workplace, I've kind of learned in my career that it takes about 2 years for something to come in place where everyone finally buys in and they accept that, this is how we're going to do it. This is why we need to do it. This is how it is now, instead of the complaining and negative feedback that goes along with it. So I've kind of learned to be patient, tell everybody it's going to take time. We just all, we're doing this for this reason. This is why we're doing it. It's for your protection. So we don't have anything too big out here that I've seen. We just kind of changed up the glove procedure. That one was actually a lot easier with getting buy-in on that because team members like their hands. They want to keep them clean and not cut. So that was a good change. So, but it's mainly just been, PPE, people wearing it properly, which that's kind of everywhere.
And then working with machinery, there's all sorts of machinery around that facility, and everyone's well trained. Do you ever find there's a level of complacency at any point there where, sometimes they need a refocus?
Surprisingly, with the machinery out here, no. Where I came from, we had such old equipment. I think some of it was actually used in like World War II, but out here, the equipment's pretty new. It comes with all the new safeguards and interlock devices, and I'm pretty amazed by it. I'm pretty, word I'm looking for, intimidated by some of it. So some of it, I'm still not very trustworthy of it, but just because it's so new and it has all the new technology on it, but I'm still a little hesitant, like, I don't know. But we had something that we needed made for a special guard on something a couple of days ago, and we had maintenance fix it within 2 hours. So I was just amazed on how quick the turnover and everyone wanted to get it fixed so quickly. So here, surprising with that, it's no. I've had a few, coaching opportunities where we need to tell someone to properly lock something out, but here it hasn't been as bad as what I've experienced in the past.
And I remember being there and seeing, these amazing machines with all the touch screens and like you said, all the safety devices built in are fantastic. But what's interesting, I can see a parallel here. I'm working right now with the drone industry, the UAS industry, the unmanned aircraft. And these aircraft are designed to be highly autonomous, right? So they'll launch, they'll go fly, do their mission, drop a package, come back. Well, a pilot really now isn't hands-on anymore. They're monitoring a system. So we've now got someone might be a professionally trained pilot. There's lots of people like me who used to fly helicopters and they'll do this job, but now they're in that monitoring role now. So they're actually here making sure the aircraft does what it does. And vigilance comes into it, because I always compare it to a nighttime watchman, say at a factory, and he has 50 cameras he's watching. Well, how intently is he watching every one of those cameras? And by the 10th hour of his shift and he's about to go home, that level of vigilance because you're not actively engaged in the activity, So it's kind of interesting that you say that about the equipment, but I mean, the level of safety that it adds is pretty amazing. And the level of assurance as well. Like you said, you've got the X-ray machines checking bottles and packages as they go out. You've got the metal detector as well, right?
Yeah, and it tests for plastic. It tests for all kinds of stuff. It's just, like I said, I never thought how much work goes into our food and our things we make. It's incredible. Like some of our bottles, they start out as little tiny plastic pellets. It's just amazing. So it's definitely interesting.
Have you ever encountered I wouldn't say at this company, but in your time as a safety professional, hazardous attitudes in employees? So I'm just going to pull up here. We have a hazardous attitudes list that, as a flight instructor, they warn you about and look for people. So the hazardous attitude, anti-authority, impulsivity, invulnerability, macho, resignation, so, the anti-authority, don't tell me what to do, I know my job. Impulsivity, I've got to do something right now, it's got to be done. The invulnerability, oh yeah, it happened to that guy, it'll never happen to me. Macho, yeah, I can do it. Resignation, what's the use? I can't do anything here anyway. So have you ever experienced any of those in any of your previous professions? Or
So absolutely. I have kind of a unique personality. I actually can get along with any type of person. It's one of my abilities. I am very proud that I have. I struggled with some of those employees in the beginning pretty heavily, and I kind of learned how to work with them and kind of read the way they read and help get them involved to where they can understand why we're doing it and get them involved. So when we're done with however we're wanting to change something or do something the right way, they've kind of helped put their feedback in and change certain things to where they're involved. And by the end, they're the ones that are helping me promote it to everybody. So I've kind of learned to deal with those personalities a different way. We have a couple out here. I already know at every single job facility, there's people like that. Somebody would be lying if they said there's not, but I've kind of learned how to work with those people well and kind of see how the way they think. I mean, they have good intentions. It's just, some people, they just want to go to work, get their job done. But if you kind of work on it and approach it the right way, you kind of learn that respect for each other. So I was just kind of laughing because there's a employee from my previous job that he is just, you go to him and if you have to talk to him, you're going to get yelled at, screamed at, he's going to give you a hard time. And I still talk to that employee probably once a month. He calls me just to see how I'm doing. So it's kind of just interesting. So I always have this joke, I'm just going to kill him with kindness. So
I know what you mean. And showing the value of what you're doing in safety is always the key to getting their participation. And do you have kind of employees as part of safety committees, or how do they link into your safety program? Do you kind of subject matter experts and those kind of things?
So with the safety committee, I always have an open door. I'm willing to have anybody come in. I've actually butted heads a little bit with HR and our plant manager at my last facility, and this one just due to I found out that when you get somebody on your committee that is usually the person that doesn't care about safety, they think that they're going to be fine. It's the way we've always done it. It's kind of fun to get them involved to see if you can change the way they think of, how it's going to work and try to help coach them. And it's so far been pretty successful with, how we've started it. Obviously, there's going to be some people that just, they're not going to want to do it the way the company wants to go, when it's kind of been revealed that that's probably not a good fit for the company then, because if you don't care about your own safety, you're not going to care about anyone else's. So that's a coaching opportunity that the supervisor needs to deal with. But I always have everybody and anybody in my committee that's, welcome. I obviously have a criteria that we need at least certain people from certain departments. Currently, I actually have a good handful of maintenance employees. Anytime I've learned in the safety role, you want to make maintenance your best friend, because we are going to work very hard together. They're the ones that have to put their lives on risk the most out of anyone out there with the type of stuff they have to do. So it's smart to get them on your side to make sure you guys are working together to collaborate and get a great idea. So we have a handful of maintenance and they have the experience. We have a handful kind of everybody. I love to have people come in there and start kind of going negative on everything, and I get to change the direction. We're not in here to complain. We're here to problem solve. You keep coming up that you have this issue that you think this is stupid. What do you suggest we can do? And kind of turn it around where they're involved and they're helping to come up with something better. So,
and those are often the best people to suggest those.
And the ones that get hurt as well. They're the best.
Yeah, and it's I've been in companies before where the fix, it can't be pushed from headquarters that's remote from the location, and you're not the person that's standing there on an icy cold ramp in the middle of winter next to a helicopter out in the middle of nowhere with no support. Or it's huge. The people on the front line are the ones that are best equipped to say this is actually the case, and this might be of benefit to fix the issue or deal with the issue. And having them involved in that process is huge, and a great cultural piece, a great safety cultural piece. Okay, I'm going to ask you some questions now as we're kind of coming towards the end. What's the most valuable lesson that you've learned as a safety manager?
People. I learned that you have to be able to relate to what their real concerns are. It can't just be somebody gives you direction and you just have to do it. You have to make sure it makes sense, and you have to get the respect from your coworkers and the people out there that are actually doing the work. You have to get that collaboration together so you guys can all be on the same page. Once you gain that respect, and they know that you're truly there to help them and get that, you're going to move so much more, further in your career. That's something I've kind of just learned. And like I said, I come from the floor, and I've learned that, you can't just have somebody give you something to wear and just expect to wear it. You have to understand why it's not comfortable, why it's not working. Is it fogging up? What the real problems are. You have to actually experience. So I would just say people, you have to get out there and really relate to what is actually going on.
And if you were speaking directly to a new safety manager in a company, and for a lot of people in my world, and I'm not sure if it's the same in your world, safety, I asked you that question earlier about how you got into safety. Safety is often like a collateral duty. They're doing something else. They're a pilot. They're, a maintenance technician. They're on the plant floor, and suddenly you're the safety officer.
Yep, I was an electrician, so yeah.
Yeah, and suddenly you're thrust into this role where maybe you have previous experience, previous training. Maybe you don't. I had some basic safety background, but I had to go and learn all about things like safety management systems and human factors and performance. If you were speaking to one of those people who suddenly they're looking at this whole position and they're like, why did I agree to this? What would you say to them in terms of how to approach safety in an organization when they suddenly feel like they're the sole focal point for safety?
I would just say, it's going to get overwhelming at times. And that's one of the biggest things that you have to get. You have to get everybody on board, and you have to get that respect, because the second you need help, it's nice to just say, I need help, guys. And you have that. If it's kind of coming on where you're coming on one-sided, where you're coming in, knowing it all, saying this is how it's going to be, no matter what, you're not really going to get people that want to participate and help. But if you guys are working together as a team and you're making sure everyone knows that, your goal here is to make sure everyone goes home safe and in better condition, and everyone's on board and knows that they have that respect, then it's going to move a lot forward. But there's been some situations where I get overwhelmed and I haven't shared with anybody on what I need support with. I know that if I go out there with certain people that are out here, that they're not going to help me, they're going to make it worse. So I just, obviously don't ask for that help. But it's important to change that. What can you do to change it? Get that respect. What can you do to go maybe help them understand what they're needing so you can get that when you need it?
Okay, so I jotted down a couple of things there. So asking for help is something I am terrible at and always was.
I remember you saying that, yep.
And that's something that I think is crucial, is knowing your limitations, or the limitations of your program or your department, in safety, and knowing when you need to get extra help. I saw collaborative approach. Sometimes you see people in our roles and they feel like they're the enforcer, or they act like an enforcer. Like, this is how it has to be, and we all know what the reaction to that is going to be. Respect is huge, and you mentioned that as well. And also that sometimes you do get overwhelmed. We all do, because safety is, we said earlier, this continuous process. You're never finished with safety, and you always have to keep moving forward. And that means the plate is always going to be overflowing with things to do. But staying the course and collaboratively approaching this with all the different departments and resources available. And like you said, we're all trying to get home at the end of the day and making sure everyone's part of that process.
Yep. One of the things that I always tell everybody is, we're all replaceable here at work. We are replaceable just like that. And there's not one person that say they can't be, but, the one thing is at home, we're not. So, we just have to really think what's important, So.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I'd love to do this again at some point if you're open to that.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks so much for your views into your world of safety, and thanks for giving us a glimpse into that, and look forward to talking to you again.
All right.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And I took a whole load of notes during our conversation, and trying to bring these points back, the key points and takeaways for me. Even though we're talking about a completely different industry to aviation, the parallels hopefully you can see between all of us safety professionals in different industries. We all talk this same safety language and face the same safety challenges. In no particular order, I'm going through these notes here. Keeping things personal, because safety is personal. Leadership, commitment, and support in terms of the policies and procedures that we put in place. Making sure that the financial and human resources are there to support what we are doing in our safety programs. Understanding that change is a challenge and always will be. People are creatures of habit. And sometimes if we're trying to make change in an organization, even though it's for the good, can take time. And we need patience for those changes to take effect. In Juliette's case, she said the expectation was around 2 years for changes to really become embedded in the organization and accepted. Keeping everyone informed of the why, not just putting a program out there or procedures or new changes in organization policies, but making sure they understand why we're doing it. The intent is to make a safer environment for all of us. The visibility of a safety professional. In Juliette's case, she had the ideal office location on the shop floor where people pass by. But even if we don't have our office on the shop floor, we can be actively walking around and on our inspections, engaging with teammates and being accessible. Because often that's when the most important conversations will come up, where people say, hey, I don't know if this is a big deal or not, but, and then suddenly we're in conversation. It's amazing what you can learn in those situations. Making sure that we're showing everyone wins, not just the negatives. And it's very easy in safety to focus on the negatives because that's what gets pushed. But when we're doing things right and we have something to celebrate in safety, we should do that. And the last one I want to hit on is making sure we have the involvement, the engagement. By engaging those teammates with the strongest viewpoints, those strongest personalities, by soliciting their feedback, these people on the front line can really help you making sure their voice is heard and that they can see that whatever you're working on in terms of a safety program is for their benefit. Suddenly you'll have much better engagement from their side. And often those will be your strongest promoters of a good safety program. So those are a few takeaways that I had. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did and really found some value from this, which was the whole intent. Thanks so much for joining me. If you've got any ideas for future podcasts or you'd like to be involved, please reach out to me. I look forward to talking to you on our next podcast.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Hawkeye, the Aviation Safety Podcast. We hope that you found our discussion on aviation safety informative and valuable. This podcast was made possible by hawkaerosafety, committed to helping clients achieve the highest level of safety in their aviation operations. hawkaerosafety's experienced safety team can provide your organization with a wide range of services, including safety management system support, safety auditing, risk management, and safety training programs. Visit our website at hawkaerosafety.com to explore our full range of services and to schedule a consultation with a safety expert. Thank you again for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us on our next episode of Hawkeye, the Aviation Safety Podcast.